Alrighty folks, welcome back to the channel and welcome to Universal Studios Florida. We're back in the park today. You know what that means? It's time for another Halloween Horror Nights 34 construction update video. We have new props in each of the scare zones. We have a lot of updates, especially with that front of park scare zone. We have new food booths appearing in the park, new bars. We also have new details for some of the haunted houses and some of the extra experiences coming to Halloween Horror Nights this year, plus new merch and tons of new things just happening in the park in general. So let's waste no more time. Let's get right in there. It is another hot one out here in Central Florida. So I don't want to waste no more time and jump right into another round of HHN 34 construction updates. Let's get it started. And so it begins. We finally have our Halloween Horror Nights neon sign. Now they did say that this will be glowing blue this year, but right in front we do have gates with some gargoyles in front. I'll cut over to the other side so I get up close to one. Right here, look at all of this. These guys look great. They're really big in person. And then we have the actual gates on this side, these giant arches. I love that they're actually like adding some decorum to the Halloween Horror Nights sign. Like previously it would just be the sign, maybe a platform for scare actors to roam, but we have gargoyles and gates and giant arches decorating that sign. It's a really fitting welcome into Halloween Horror Nights 34. Really shows you they're really going all out this year. And getting right into the mix with the origins of horror, I see some covers, I see some tarps on each one of these little platform areas. I think our statues are here, and this is really exciting. Now, this one here has what looks to be the top of maybe a hat, some ears. Maybe this is a Freddy Fazbear in particular. Down on this side, what do we got over here? Let's see what we got over here. We have another hat. What looks to be another hat, maybe for the ghoul from Fallout, potentially. Let's cut over to this side, in which we seem to have, oh, we can even see a little bit through the tarp, the holes of a certain hockey mask from, of course, Friday the 13th, Jason. And then down here, this one's the puzzling one because it's got to be the wide 6, right? That's the only one that's left. But, like, why is this a square, you know? But loving that we're seeing all these statues here. And there's still one more that we have to go over to that's a little more obvious at the end of the street. But I'm loving what we're seeing so far. And I say I wanted to save one for the end because this looks to be, it's got to be art, right? Like, looking at this one here at the end, we have a chainsaw. Well, it looks to be a chainsaw. A little head with a little top hat on top. Yeah, it's got to be Art the Clown as our big sort of finale one. Not attached to any of like the main pieces, but yeah, these all look great. I cannot wait to see these uncovered. Also, just wanted to remind you, since we're in the Music Plaza area, that this weekend is the final weekend for Rip Ride Rocket. August 17th will be the last day to ride. It'll close on the 18th, and I foresee that this whole area here will become a giant construction zone in the future. What will that mean for the sound stages? We don't know, but I do know that a iconic part of Universal Studios Florida, love it or hate it, will be going away at the end of the week. So goodbye Rocket. It'll be interesting to see what happens next with Rip Ride Rocket. What happens right here in this Music Plaza too, and like in the surrounding area back there once this coaster is closed. Also, now that we are in Music Plaza, I guess I got to talk about this food booth right here. Now this does look very similar to the ones we've seen in the past, like the classic Monsters booths. We have the stained glass, we have the vines, we have this sort of castle architecture. Will this be connected to El Artista, a Spanish haunting? Will this be more generic? Not sure, but I like what we're seeing here. It's just a matter of time before we get those menus. That's all we're really waiting for at this point. And it shouldn't be too much longer because the event starts in under 2 weeks. Premium Scream Night is 2 weeks from today, I should say. And that's really exciting. I will be there. So we'll be able to try some food. But yeah, food booth here in Music Plaza.
Now, taking just a brief pause from the in-park updates, we jump over to Voice Over Me. Hi, I'm here at the studio right now because we have a couple articles to break down. We're going to start with this one by Darren Scott at SFX Magazine. Not too long ago, we had that great UK press event in which a ton of details about the haunted houses and scare zones were revealed, and Darren Scott is the man with the plan, the one who broke that news, and he's the one who's writing this article here about the event, which has some more interesting information from an interview with Laura Sauls. Now, we do have a lot of talk about the different IPs coming to this year's event, but I really want to get to the new information, starting with some details about the street experiences coming to this year's event. The article states that Halloween Horror Nights 34 will be including additional street entertainment, including zombie car hops at a diner, 2 will be on roller skates, enhanced fog, scenic and lighting effects, roaming chainsaw hordes, and characters where people may not expect them. They're also teasing a tribute store that is bigger than ever before and a new series of podcasts, which is exciting for us lore nerds who want to know more about this event and miss those HHN podcasts. But going back to the street experience, we do seem to have a confirmation that we're going to see roller skaters in the Mel's Die-In area. I know that was talked about for a long time, but it seems like here it is confirmed. I'm also curious about this enhanced fog and scenic effects. We do see new fog machines popping up all over the park, and they look a little more robust than the ones we're typically used to, so I wonder if that has to do with the enhanced fog coming to this year's event. So we all know that Five Nights at Freddy's is coming to this year's event as a haunted house, but in this article it does reveal that fans are also going to be able to eat at Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria for real, with plans to transform an established restaurant for the duration of the event. Wow, I am so stoked to hear that they are going to be bringing Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria to life at Halloween Horror Nights. Now, it does mention transforming an established restaurant, and really the only logical restaurant that could take over is Louis' Italian restaurant in the New York section of Universal Studios Florida. Louis is, of course, a pizzeria already, and the last time we saw them transform a restaurant for Halloween Horror Nights, it was Louis for Character Dining back in 2022, where they created little photo ops, in addition to having the restaurant open for that separate ticketed event. So I could see them using Louis as that location because it's not something that conflicts with an IP or a certain brand, and we've used it before for HHN, so I think Louis is the spot. I know that's the spot a lot of people have been wanting to see some sort of Five Nights at Freddy's experience exist at. And it does seem like that's what's going to be happening this year. It is not confirmed to be Louis, but come on, it's got to be Louis, right? However, Terrifier fans, there's something for you here as well, because this article does state that, quote, we're also going to have Art the Clown stalking you everywhere you go in the park, noting that variations of the killer clown could appear in queues, stores, restaurants, and dark alleys that no one wants to go down. Wow, this is a major update. This is a huge addition. If they're able to pull this off, I could see a new era of IP integration or even original integration with these roaming characters around the park. Now, we've had roaming characters before, most recently with Jack at HHN 30, but even Jack didn't seem to go in restaurants and stores. So I'm really curious to see the extent of this, how this will work. But for those big fans of Art the Clown and Terrifier, I'm super excited for you guys. For myself, this sounds actually pretty terrifying to have Art the Clown just roaming around, but it also sounds like really friggin' awesome. So I'm excited for this. And the article ends with talking a little bit about next year's event. It says, if guests survive, there's an impending 35th anniversary in 2026. We started in April, Saul's reveals. All 5 original content houses have already been approved. We're working on design SketchUp now. Now, this should be no surprise as they usually work on Halloween Horror Nights events way ahead of time. With them teasing original houses potentially returning for next year's event, or different concepts from the past being present at HHN 35, it gets me really excited for what's in store for next year, and I think this is a great move, kind of planting the seeds of HHN 35 right now.
All right, and coming around the corner from Gramercy Park, we have an update to our Clown Cafe. Well, Art isn't the only clown that's over here in this area. We do have over here a new clown-themed food booth. Looks kind of like the one from that Terrifier Funhouse facade, which is cool. It's not exactly the same, but I do like there's a little detail of the indent in the tongue here on the actual counter, which is really great. But yeah, this has been out for a couple days. I haven't seen it. It's been since my last video. But yeah, this is what we're looking at here, right next to the Clown Cafe food booth. So will this be connected to Terrifier? Will it be something else? Not too sure, but either way, it is right next to the Clown Cafe right down here, which has received some additional detail. But before we pop down there, I do want to pop over to the Transformers bar, which looks like it actually has a bar now. And it looks like the Fanta bars are back this year, hopefully with no AI artwork like they had last year. That was kind of a dark spot, but you know, love seeing that there's a bar here. This is always one of the more popular ones of the event. So yeah, your Transformers bar has appeared. But moving over to the Clown Cafe, we have a very similar structure to what we saw last time, but we now have some vines all over, and then we have a giant decal of Mr. Art right here. If you didn't know, which food booth this was, it's pretty damn obvious now. But loving what we're seeing with the Clown Cafe. This is actually one of my more hyped food booths just because of the look of everything. And of course, with the clown right next to it, I think this is a good little 1-2 pairing for this area. And it does look like we have an update for our Firefly Funhouse booth. We have the sign with Abby, with Mercy, with Ramblin' Rabbit right here, the Fireflies. This looks great. But okay, moving over to Mutations Toxic 20s, we have quite a few updates. We have a lot more detail. Looks like we have a body here covered in tarp. Crash barrels, some more stuff going on with the actual truck itself, just some more scenic detail happening with this sort of main crash site, the scene of the crime, as I like to call it. And I can't wait to see more and more detail come to this area, broken light pole and everything like that. Yeah, I'm just really loving how the scare zone is looking so far. I think it has a lot of potential to be really great, and more and more I'm getting hyped. Also, nice little hat right there. And moving over to the florist shop, we do have some flowers now. Last time we did not have flowers, and it does seem like the back is kind of tarped up. We have flowers all here, there, and everywhere. Cash register right there, as well as one of the BuzzCon barrels, which I wonder if it's gonna be like leaking onto the ground here. That would be kind of interesting, but we have a lot more detail added to the florist booth. And again, maybe we'll see some bodies in there or something going on back there that they had to cover up for the day guests. But even if it's just to save what's inside for the event itself, love what we're seeing with the florist booth right here. Minor update with the police car. We do have some lights on top right here, but looks to be about the same as when we saw it last. But if you look on the ground up here, there's something really, really interesting that I hope doesn't get ruined before the event. We have some green goo on the floor. So when I said with the florist shop that I think that barrel might be oozing something, I think we could maybe see more of those little puddles all around the scare zone, which would be really great. But over here in the sort of backstage area, we have another covered piece. Again, probably some kind of body part or something they don't want to show the day guests, as well as another barrel. But yeah, lots of body parts, lots of tarped pieces happening all over here. Another puddle of green goo right here, the mutation, the ooze. I just hope too many people don't like step on this and it ruins it before the event even starts. But yeah, not a whole lot happening in Mutations, but there are some updates over here too. So moving over to this little spot right here, we have some signage up there that I have not seen yet. One over here says do right and vote dry. And this one I think says drinking leads to a moral conduct. Very much fitting into the sort of Prohibition era vibes we're getting with the Toxic 20s. I wonder how this is going to tie into the zone itself, and with the Mutations, everything that's happening tying into like Prohibition, which would be really cool. I'd really like to see that. And then we have a tarped body right here, of course. Likely something, again, too gruesome for the general public. All right, and then moving over to the new stand, it does not look like a whole lot of updates happening over here, but it looks like the tarp has changed. It looks like a little more of a themed tarp. And then we have another BuzzCon barrel here, and then it looks like this window has been sort of covered up by all of the newspapers, which is pretty cool. Again, I love that they created this like written media for the zone. It's really great. But yeah, loving how this new stand is looking. This might be my favorite set piece in the whole zone, if I'm being honest with you. And I'm curious to see how this actually plays in to this Mutations scare zone. But I will have to apologize. I guess I was proven incorrect because I said in the last video, I don't think a food booth will appear back here in Sting Alley. And it does look like we seem to be getting a food booth here. Nothing themed yet, just a tent. All right, and standing here in a little covered area because it is, again, really hot outside, I want to talk about this year's tribute store because it has been confirmed to be in the Sahara Traders Mummy gift shop location as well as the Palace Arcade. This whole complex is where the tribute store is going to be, and I'm showing some shots on the screen right now of what it looks like inside of there. They are currently arranging it for that tribute store location, kind of getting it ready. It is such a weird new thing that they're doing this year, but it is officially confirmed. It is no longer guess, no longer speculation. It's actually happening in this area. The old tribute store location is no longer, unfortunately. Hopefully it comes back at some point. Curious, interested, a little skeptical, but excited for what the tribute store has in store.
All right, so in addition to all the information that came from that SFX article, we also got a Discover Universal article that goes a little bit behind the scenes on Hatchet and Chains, which is really interesting because it's the first of these articles that we've seen. We haven't gotten any podcasts, any real behind the scenes detail from Universal themselves about these haunted houses, and this one includes pictures as well as some information about the house, so I will put a big spoiler warning right here if you do not want any spoilers for Hatchet and Chains Demon Bounty Hunters coming to HHN HHN 34. I would skip this section, but I do want to break down this article and talk about it because we are going to get to see this house next week on the Unmasking the Horror tour. And I think there are a lot of interesting lore details and little tidbits we have in this article, so let's break it down. We get a little bit of detail about who Hatchet and Chains are. Hatchet is a demon himself, and Chains is a bounty hunter that can understand demons. Hatchet is kind of the strong, silent type, the straight man of the group, while Chains is kind of the funny, quippy guy. And in the actual backstory, we learn that Chains actually saves Hatchet's life somehow, so that's how the two kind of get paired together. And this article actually details a little bit of the backstory for this haunted house. It says, on the outskirts of a small cow town, an old woman is bitter about the arrival of a new train station in town. Naturally, she summons a horde of red-hot lava demons from the local Hell's Well to wreak havoc. So that's kind of the setup that we're going into this house. My guess is the demons are already going to be unleashed by the time we actually go into this haunted house, kind of throwing us right into the action. However, the demons are possessing people in different ways. It says here, rather than possessing the townsfolk spiritually, these demons specialize in possessions of a more violent sort, ripping open your mouth, crawling into your body. This physical possession has three forms: demon, flesh, and as Charles Gray, the show director for the house, describes it, hodgepodge. When you encounter the demons with the human flesh, the flesh is dangling off and malformed. In the final third of the adventure, we see that the demon flesh is falling off, so they're taking metal pieces and clamping them on to hold the flesh together. And it's not just that these demons are coming in and possessing people, they actually have a motive. Their goal is to board the cattle trains and burn their way across the country. I'm already in love with this story. I like all the body horror elements, and I also really love how this house seems to build. I've said it before, and I'll say it again, I love haunted houses that have a crescendo within their story, have a story that builds as you go through it, and this one seems like one of those houses. Now, this next bit talks a little bit about the actual house itself. It says, when you enter Hatchet and Chains Demon Bounty Hunters, you'll find yourself in the local town depot. As you weave past the bunk beds and past a gruesome fireplace scene where Chains has already gone to work on a lava demon, you'll see that the bounty hunters have rounded up the horses and are about to head into town. And this quote is really interesting from scenic designer Dylan Koloth, who, if you don't know, has done houses such as Deadman's Pier, Goblin's Feast, and Blood Moon Dark Offerings. He says, we try to make these spaces look really functional and really authentic. There will be windows you can look through, and you'll get a glimpse of the different parts of town that you're going to see later as you journey through. This sounds really, really interesting because this reminds me directly of what we saw with Blood Moon Dark Offerings, where you could see different parts of the house in different areas. You've got a really great lay of the land, and the village felt like a real place because of this. Either way, though, it seems like we are continuing into the town, going into the Town Fellowship Hall, the Horse-Toothed Saloon, which is what we saw in Slaughter Cinema 2, the Undertaker, and of course, the cemetery. And the article also teases that we're going to be seeing some jaw-dropping moments, including a train car that will appear to quite literally speed right before our eyes. This, plus a tease towards a very large effect seen in the finale, just gets me so excited for Hatchet and Chains Demon Bounty Hunters. It is my most anticipated original coming to this year's event, and I'm really excited with these additional details, and I can't wait to see and share more once we go on that Unmasking the Horror tour.
And if you didn't know that San Francisco was Club Horror, it's pretty obvious by this new arrival, a little beer truck. We also got some more details. There'll be undead DJs, masked dancers, and original characters we could take pictures with in this party zone, in this street experience. So really curious if we're going to see one of these for Mel's or if this is just for Club Horror. But yeah, this is really the only addition we have into Club Horror at this moment, is this little truck right here. Of course, no more like props or theming. I don't think we're really going to get any. Maybe some like signage, but yeah, what we have here looks fun. I'm excited for this, like mildly. You know, it's not something I'm like super looking forward to, but also like, well, we'll have to wait and see. Maybe it's actually really fun. The HHN bar was not something I was super hyped for, but it ended up surprising me in the end. So maybe we see the same with Club Horror. And well, we have an update with this booth back here in World Expo. As you can see, the Camp Crystal Lake sign. This is indeed a Jason food booth. Seems like all of our IPs are getting food booths, and it's great. Love the sign up there. And of course, the vines we talked about in the last video, and then councils only right by the door. So yep, very curious to see what food items we're gonna have here, but it looks like we can put this to bed. Jason is indeed taking over World Expo with a food booth. All right, here coming out of Springfield, it does seem that we have a food truck here. Now, food trucks are pretty typical for this location, although this one is themed. And as you can see, we have plastics. Definitely looks like a child's drawing with the colors and everything. I think this is a food truck for dolls, especially because dolls is very highly likely to go back in this area. I could see this being a dolls themed food truck, which is cool. Again, I like when these food trucks get theming, because normally they're like the generic universal ones. Maybe they have theming on like the POS, but we're actually seeing theming on the truck, which is cool. It makes me wonder what kind of food we'll see in the dolls food booth, if this is a dolls food booth. However, that is not the only food booth in this area, as we must go over to Animal Actors. A couple videos ago, I did mention that this was cleared out, and now, as you can see, there is a food booth here, a rather large food booth. Now this year, this was here for Slaughter Cinema, and it looks like this year it's a little more generic, maybe tied to El Artista or the Conservatory. However, it does indeed look like this is gonna be one of our larger food booths. Like I said, maybe more like a generic food booth with different treats. Again, we have no menus out, so it's all just guesswork, what food we could see. Let me know down in the comments below, what food do you want to see at this year's event with some of the IPs, the originals? All right, so coming around the side here, it looks like they've added a ton of greenery to the cat lady's porch. All the props we saw before are wrapped in leaves, and we have like greenery and weathering. We even have a little rocking chair right here for the cat lady to sit on, maybe. But yeah, they have really done this area up, decorating with all this greenery. And that can be said for the entire zone, so I'm not gonna talk too much about what we're seeing here, because this is just more greenery, more vines. And the same can be said with this little mini maze we have here. I talked about this a lot in the last video. Really the main update we have over here is that the boo holes now have this sort of like shredded cloth instead of the sort of like sack cloth. I can't believe we're only a couple weeks away from actually experiencing this in full, and I can't wait to see how this is used in particular. But yeah, this scare zone in general, again, everybody's saying it, but it's true. The scare zone just feels like it is on a whole another level. Unfortunately, we do have to leave Crooked Lane once again, but we do have some updates over here. A new sort of structure has erected here with gates that look very similar to the cat lady of Crooked Lane zone. So I wonder if that could be the theme. Maybe like classic Halloween, or maybe we're getting like Latin horror like we normally see. Food booth looks great. This always is a really popular spot for food at the event, and it's looking good so far. So thumbs up for the Cafe La Bamba food booth. And we do have some updates over at the HHN bar as well. Feels like everything is kind of coming together. We're at that point in the season where we're only a couple weeks out, and all the big stuff is coming in. All the food booths are coming in, all the bars are coming in, and the bar is in. So let's go check it out. All right, here's the red truss. You know what that means? We're gonna talk about the HHN bar. And as I mentioned, the bar is here. So we have another kind of generic looking bar, kind of like what we saw with the Animal Actors location, making me think that's kind of our general look this year outside of Fanta. But yeah, the HHN bar is here. We still do not have any platforms for this area, so hopefully soon we'll see it. But yeah, it does feel like this HHN bar is a little more themed than the last one we got. So hopefully that means a better HHN bar. Really interesting stuff, but liking the direction for that HHN bar for sure. All right, and then making our way into the final scare zone that has indeed received some updates. Not a whole lot of updates, a little more minor than the others, but we do have some updates for Masquerade Dance with Death. As I mentioned before, when you see tarps, you know it's bodies. And we have tarp over here. I think we saw that last time, but we have a new tarp right here. Looks like there's gonna be a body like hanging over the balcony there, which is really awesome. Our champagne flight, our champagne tower, is now covered, making me think maybe there's gonna be a human head on the top, because we did have kind of like a pole sticking out. We have another body right here in the chair, right here. Just loving how this zone is coming along, man. It's really growing on me. At first, I was excited, but I wasn't like too jazzed. But the more we see the zone, the more we get of the zone, I'm getting more and more excited. I think that's gonna wrap it up as far as updates go. A little more minor, not a huge update, but definitely some things I did want to talk about as we get into kind of the final week, I would say, before HHN. Like I said, I do have an Unmasking the Horror tour next week for the 3 House. I'm excited to do that video. I know some folks are not really wanting to see spoilers, so we'll be talking about park update stuff then as well. But with that being said, it is hot, 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 and I'm gonna call it Let me know down in the comments below, what are you most excited to see when it comes to this video? Are you excited for that Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria, the roaming art? I want to, of course, thank you for watching this video, and thank you for 4,000 subscribers. I truly, truly appreciate it. I love that I get to come out here and make these videos and that you guys want to watch them. With that being said, if you're new here and you like videos about Halloween Horror Nights, the past, present, future, be sure to let me know by leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. I, of course, want to thank you for watching this video. I will see you in the next one, and until then, stay spooky and take care, everybody.